Governor J.B. Pritzker denying taking flights with Epstein, and that mass transit carry ban in Illinois is still continuing at the U.S. Supreme Court. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop for this Wednesday. What is it, March 4th now? And less than 2 weeks, polls are going to close for the state of Illinois' primaries. All up and down the tickets, all across the state. Primaries are happening. Early voting underway, but March 17th, it's going to be here before you know it. So we're going to have to get some more focus on that, especially for those of you who have not voted yet. So we've got a lot to tackle. I know I said yesterday I wasn't going to be here for the morning show, but I'm here for the morning show live. So appreciate everybody jumping into the chat room here. So shout out to Hometown Boz, Tom Hall, and others pouring in as we do this show. And I appreciate you guys joining us live here with the Center Square. Don't forget, we've also got the Center Square Daily. It's our national program that we've launched, and that's going to grow and grow and grow. So definitely be here for that a little bit later on today, where you find the Center Square. So appreciate you guys being here. We've got two things we're going to tackle. We're going to talk about the latest filing in the U.S. Supreme Court in the Schoenthal case. And if you're not familiar with that case, it deals with whether or not people can carry the concealed firearm on mass transit in the state of Illinois. You had this case we've tracked from the district courts where a judge said it was unconstitutional for the plaintiffs to have the law enforced against them. The appeals court reversing that. And now it's in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. So it's got a record. The Supreme Court's looking at a split decision in this particular district from the district court to the appeals courts, and they've also requested filings. So the latest filing from the plaintiffs in that case was made yesterday. So we'll talk about that coming up. Also, another case that the Illinois Supreme Court is expected to hear concerning the firearm owner identification card in the state of Illinois. That as well, something we'll touch on coming up here with Illinois in Focus Daily. But next, we got to hear the back and forth of former President Bill Clinton saying that he was on a flight with J.B. Pritzker, all in the context of Epstein's plane, and Pritzker denying that and saying that Clinton got it wrong. Well, we'll delve into it and we'll hear from those sources next, here with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us when we're live for the Center Square.
But I think it was on one of these trips, I think, that I had my first trip for the man who's now the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. The man who's now the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and his wife. They helped me get started. It's all a matter of public record.
See, no. Let me be clear. First of all, President Clinton clearly was mistaken, and he corrected the mistake. I had never met Jeffrey Epstein. I was never on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I was never on any plane with Jeffrey Epstein or with Ghislaine Maxwell. Never met her.
Former President Bill Clinton, followed by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, all in the matter of days, as continued focus on the Epstein files and the impacts that it's going to have on political futures. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and get notified when we go live for the Center Square. And yesterday we talked about several legislators that are pushing for a Epstein commission in Illinois to investigate things. And that commission, if the bill passes the legislature, would be comprised of individuals that the governor selects. And the governor now seeming to be kind of brought into this ongoing question of associates of Epstein. And it's because former President Bill Clinton raised his name. So here we are. We talked a bit yesterday about that commission that legislators are urging to have here in Illinois, but we also talked about Thomas Pritzker and how he does show up in the Epstein files with some communications back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein. We'll take a look at that. But you also have J.B. Pritzker showing up in the files, but only as getting mass emails about campaign events and things like that. I mean, I've got tons of emails from Governor J.B. Pritzker's campaign in my inbox, right? So that's where J.B. Pritzker shows up, but you have the House Oversight Committee in Congress that's been doing depositions. They're under oath Q&As with certain subjects that they want to get information from. Last week, they had Hillary Clinton in to answer questions. And then they also had Bill Clinton, the former president of the United States, in to answer questions. And it's widely known that Bill Clinton was associated with Jeffrey Epstein and was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. A lot of supposition around that and a lot of, allegations that people are making against Bill Clinton and other, powerful people that are associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, Clinton was asked about it for about 3 hours. And then at the tail end of that 3 hours, we get this from the House Oversight Committee's deposition of former President William Jefferson Clinton.
You apparently took 26 flights on planes connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Was he on every flight you were on?
Was he on every flight I was on? That's a good question.
If you know.
What?
If you know, their flight manifest,
Yeah,
do you know?
There'll be a record of it, but I think he was, or certainly on most.
You think he was? Well, that's okay. Was Ghislaine Maxwell on every flight you were on, as far as you remember?
The same answer. I think she was, but there'll be a record of it.
Who did you normally bring on these flights? I assume, employees of the foundation, whatever.
I brought people who work with me, especially people who would have to follow up on the fundraising or people who were
Right.
involved in my AIDS work. I bought people who,
Just like I never go anywhere alone. You never went anywhere alone, right?
what, no.
We always have an
And
entourage.
I had the Secret Service with me. And then on occasion, I had people who had volunteered to help us and wanted to see what we were doing.
Right.
For example, I think it was on one of these trips, I think, that I had my first trip for the man who's now the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and his wife. They helped me get started. It's all a matter of public record.
So Clinton talking about a variety of flights, right? He was asked if on every flight he had on Epstein's plane, if Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were there. He said he's not sure. The flight manifest would show that. He then talked about other flights he had taken over to, for instance, Africa, part of the Clinton Global Initiative that, was taking donations and doing things with those dollars. Pritzker helping out with that. J.B. Pritzker helping out with that early on. And he said that much when he was asked about this yesterday at an unrelated event in Chicago.
See, no. Let me be clear. First of all, President Clinton clearly was mistaken, and he corrected the mistake to his credit. And no, I had never met Jeffrey Epstein. I was never on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I was never on any plane with Jeffrey Epstein or with Ghislaine Maxwell. Never met her. But you know who did? You know who palled around with both of them? Donald Trump did. Donald Trump is known to have spent a lot of time with both of them. And yet he still hasn't owned up to it and still hasn't been held accountable for that. And that we should do.
So Pritzker seeming to shift the focus from his name being brought up by Bill Clinton in association with questions around flights on Epstein's plane. And he also says that Bill Clinton clarified that and corrected that. Haven't been able to find like an official statement from Bill Clinton directly, either on video or a message, but a Clinton spokesperson did post this on X. President Clinton was simply giving an example of many people he traveled with to see the Clinton Foundation's work. Governor Pritzker joined a Clinton Foundation trip in 2008, not on Epstein's plane, not with Epstein, not with Maxwell. And again, that's a post from Angel Urena. But Pritzker was asked yesterday in some more detail about certain types of flights that he had, at least with Bill Clinton. Here's the governor yesterday.
Sorry, in 2008, there was actually a donated aircraft, as I recall, from Google. There were about 25 people on the aircraft, and they were all political types and people involved with the foundation, the Clinton Foundation, including Chelsea Clinton and other people.
And what about the 2013 trip?
I don't know whose aircraft that was, but that was not, we triple checked, that was not Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, and there were other people on that aircraft as well.
Were you aware of the connection between Epstein and the Clintons?
Oh, no, I'd never even heard of Jeffrey Epstein until, obviously, the scandal that broke out in, 2019.
What was the purpose of those trips?
You've got Pritzker being asked about these trips that he would take and, the purpose of them. He says, well, I was, working with the Clintons and the AIDS work that they were doing over in Africa and so on. But interesting, he says, the 2013 flight, he doesn't know whose plane it was, but they triple checked and it wasn't Epstein. Some may question, well, how can you be certain it wasn't Epstein's plane if you triple checked, but you don't know whose plane it was? Again, just, the reactions from the governor being asked about it at an unrelated news conference following Bill Clinton's testimony to the U.S. House Oversight Committee. Again, you've got Pritzker trying to shift the focus here, saying that the Republicans are glomming on to former President Clinton's comments about J.B. Pritzker, because J.B. Pritzker's running for re-election in an election year, and there's questions of whether he's going to try to run for the White House. So he's a billionaire. He could fund his own campaigns. But here's the governor yesterday reacting further about this particular situation.
Well, naturally, the Republicans are trying to, it's a wag the dog. Let's, look over here, look over here. Don't look at the leader of their party, the leader of this country, who is a Republican, Donald Trump, who clearly is somebody that needs to be investigated, needs to be answering for his relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, with Jeffrey Epstein, and has done none of that. You saw other people testifying. Where is President Trump's testimony?
Question I'm sure Democrats will continue as more and more comes out about the Epstein files. Speaking of those files, you can go and look at stuff yourself. Go to the U.S. Department of Justice website where you can see and search for all these files. You just got to click through a couple of times to make sure that you're above the age of 18, and you can search all of the files. And if you do a search for Pritzker, let's just go ahead and do this live. You find that there's a bunch of different data, emails in particular. Tom Pritzker pops up in more than a dozen different emails. Just looking at several of those, here's one. We'll start kind of backwards. Are you enjoying the boat? Jeffrey Epstein asks Tom Pritzker back in 2009. And Pritzker responds, and this is Tom Pritzker, not JB, Tom Pritzker. Your sources? Jeffrey Epstein replies, I'd have to kill you. And then Tom Pritzker says it might be worth it. Others, responding back and forth. He likes you, so I'm told. So interesting to see that email. You've got other emails going back and forth. And again, these are all part of the files that the Trump administration released through the DOJ. More questions here. This is an interesting one from 2012. Redacted plus boy not coming, Tom Pritzker says. Best guess on how many, PAX's passengers, 14 plus 2. 8 p.m. casual, how they dress, good, I left my tux at home. Other emails indicating, the same thing here. Have to take a pass. And then you get this particular photo that's part of a subset of documents that House Democrats released. It shows, looks like David Blaine doing a card trick. I believe this is Thomas Pritzker. That's Woody Allen, and there's Jeffrey Epstein standing off in the background there as well. Who's this dignitary? That it looks like it might be Ehud Barak. So again, these are just some of the stuff that's popping up from all of the documents that have been released as part of the document dump of Jeffrey Epstein. So this story is going to continue. You're going to see a lot of political hay made about this and a lot of reactions and a continued insistence from Democrats to say that President Donald Trump needs to testify now that you have a former President Bill Clinton testifying. So I don't think the story is going to go anywhere anytime soon, especially in this election year. But we'll cover it as it unfolds. Right here with the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily, I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being here, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell and wake up with us when we're live with Illinois in Focus Daily. Second Amendment advocates filing with the U.S. Supreme Court challenging Illinois' ban on mass transit concealed carry. And this is just one of the multitude of gun laws in Illinois that are tied up in the courts. I'm Greg Bishop. It's Illinois in Focus Daily with you each and every weekday morning we can be. So be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. So when we do go live, you'll get updated. All right, Firearms Policy Coalition announcing yesterday a reply brief in support of the cert petition that has been filed with the U.S. Supreme Court, and this is in the case Benjamin Schoenthal versus Kwame Raoul, and that Second Amendment organization-backed lawsuit asking the courts to overturn the Seventh Circuit's decision. It's all about carrying concealed firearms in mass transit. Let's go to the docket for the U.S. Supreme Court, which does show that, a bit of a history of this particular case. And if you go to the U.S. Supreme Court's website, go to the docket search, come down, we'll look up Schoenthal. It's already in my search history. Boom. All right. So this particular docket was filed in October of 2025. So on Halloween last year, it was filed. You have more filings back and forth, and then it was distributed to conference for January 9th. And again, this is the mass transit carry ban case, and you have responses being requested by the court. So this is where we get the responses, and the most recent one yesterday from the Firearms Policy Coalition. And that essentially arguing that the Second Amendment protects individuals' firearms rights, and having certain sensitive places like mass transit prohibited is a violation of the Constitution. So you've got the U.S. Supreme Court considering this case, because this case, as we followed the Schoenthal case, you have 4 plaintiffs, I believe, that sued the district courts, heard the case, made a ruling saying that this particular law at this time in litigation is unconstitutional as applied to these plaintiffs in the case, only the plaintiffs in the case. So the district judge found the law unconstitutional. Several days after that, you had a shooting on mass transit that killed several people, and the prosecutors of the area, who are also part of the team that is defending the law, they filed something in the district court saying that after the ruling, there was the shooting on mass transit, and the judge in the district court was not having that. And I remember tuning into the telephone conference hearing for a follow-up on the case, and the judge chastised the defense, the state, the county and the state, saying that the way they worded their filing was that because of the judge's ruling, a criminal who did not have a FOID card, killed people on mass transit. The judge was not having that. There was no direct correlation, he said, and practically admonished the defense in the case, the state and the county. So he then, that case is moving on to the appeals court. The appeals court says that the law is constitutional and that the plaintiffs don't have standing. So that now we've got a split decision within this particular district, right? The district level judge, the appeals court had different takes. Now it's on to the U.S. Supreme Court. So will they take the case? I don't think that's listed here. They're just asking for documents going back and forth. We have yet to see on the docket here whether or not they've taken the case and set up for oral arguments. But clearly, there's going to be more happening here as the reply briefs go back and forth. So if this case is ultimately ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, then it would essentially restore the right to carry firearms for self-defense on public transit. And that could have reverberations all across the country. Meanwhile, the FOID card, Illinois, you have to have a firearm owner identification card in order to possess or purchase firearms and ammunition. And there's 4 states or so that have similar types of identification requirements. A lot of Second Amendment advocates say that having a multi-layer check of, you don't just have to go through a background check federally, but you also have to, in Illinois, have a firearm owner ID card. And it has to be up to date, and state police do background checks on all of FOID card holders. There's more than 2-some-odd million people who have FOID cards in the state of Illinois. And some questioning the constitutionality. Well, coming up, according to attorney Thomas Magg, who's been active in a lot of these gun ban challenges and other gun litigation, he put out a statement saying that on March 17th, while people are going to the polls, he's going to be in front of the U.S. Supreme Court challenging Illinois' firearm owner ID card. And he says the court's already been presented with the same core issue now before it. Multiple times. The Illinois Supreme Court has taken up challenges to the FOID card multiple times. But you have Mag saying that whether it's constitutional for the state to revoke a FOID card of a person who's been accused but not convicted of committing a felony, that's the question in the case that he's going to be arguing in front of the Illinois Supreme Court on March 17th. So that's the case where you've got multiple plaintiffs, one in particular that Mag's representing, traveling through Cook County in a car, and he had a firearm and a FOID card, and the firearm was secured in the trunk in an enclosed case, unloaded, which is how the Illinois residents understand you're supposed to transfer a firearm. If you don't have a concealed carry license, but you have a FOID card, you can have the firearm, but it has to essentially be inoperable and put into a closed case. But despite having all of that in Cook County, he was arrested and charged with carrying a loaded firearm without a valid FOID card, and his FOID card was suspended while that case was playing out. But the plaintiff here that Mag is representing in front of the Illinois Supreme Court saying that he was harmed. Now, the state's attorney and the Illinois Attorney General, they argued the case is moot because the individual's FOID card had been restored. But still, again, you have that harm that was done between when the card was, suspended after being charged with a felony, not convicted, and then being restored after, I guess, the case was ultimately, put to bed. But, how do you rectify the damage that was done? So Thomas Magg putting out statements. He's also running for county board in Madison County, by the way, in Illinois. And instead of on election day monitoring the polls, he's going to be in front of the Illinois Supreme Court. So we're going to be watching that closely March 17th as well, here with Illinois in Focus. All right, something else too, just a status on the gun ban challenge. We still have yet to see if the U.S. Supreme Court is going to take the Veramontes case. Has it been relisted? That's a great question. I have not checked that. So let's go to the court document search, dockets. Let's go to Veramontes. Pull that case up. Look at the docket. What's the latest entry? Distributed for conference from March 6th. So that case is going back to conference Friday, which means Monday morning after the time change. We'll have to be refreshing that orders list page again for the Veramontes case. Now, again, that's the separate case that's gone all the way through the judiciary. It's now being requested for the U.S. Supreme Court to take that case. That's different than the Barnett case, where you have a Southern District judge say that the law is unconstitutional. The appeals court heard the case, but they're still sitting on it. They have not put out their ruling yet. And we'll see what they do. But could hinge on whether or not the Supreme Court takes the Viramontes case, because the Viramontes case also challenges the state's law, not just the Cook County ban. But does it have the substantive record? Or does it have a split decision within the district, right? Because, again, the Southern District of Illinois in the Barnett case ruling unconstitutional, the appeals court hearing that, having yet to make a decision. I know we're all on the edge of our seats, so hopefully you'll stay with us here with the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thank you so much for being part of the program each and every weekday morning that we're live, and be sure to get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. I will tentatively be here tomorrow or not. So, appreciate your patience, right? I'm a jack of all trades, and I jump into where I'm needed and getting things done so we can get information out to everybody that needs it. So I appreciate you guys being part of that group and getting that information. Be sure to get the headlines in your inbox by going to thecentersquare.com. Sign up for the newsletter. If you've got a few bucks, donate. We're a nonprofit newswire service, so you can find out more by going to thecentersquare.com. All right, guys, have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you here soon with Illinois in Focus Daily and the Center Square. Don't forget, the Center Square Daily coming your way midday. Be sure to check that out as well, all right? Have a great day.